you like that noise, guys?
No.
Anyone fancy it?
No. Why?
No, you don't like it? Let's cancel it and do a podcast all about it and call it the Noise Cancelling Podcast, where we are right now. Welcome to Noise Cancelling Podcast, everybody. The tech show where no one really knows what's going on and we just try and tell you all about it. I'm not going to tell you who I am. I'm going to let the team introduce themselves first.
God.
Sherri, start
I'm
us off.
Sherri Smith, editor-in-chief of Laptop Mag. Oh.
I'm Philip Tracy, editor at Laptop Mag.
I am Matt Swider, managing editor at TechRadar.
And I am Gareth Beavis, editor-in-chief of TechRadar and purveyor of fine noises. How's it going, guys, today? Sherri, are you having a good time? You look, behind the curtain, guys, sometimes we do this and Sherri's not fully dressed, but today she is ready to rock.
I am fully dressed. It's just that this is the only room that the beat doesn't really get into. It just happens to be my bedroom. And so I just look comfier than the rest of you.
I wore a full suit.
How's your week been so far, Sherri?
It's been good. Lots of reviews. Cannot complain. My house is slowly but surely becoming a laptop repository. I'm fine with it. Bury me with my tech.
Good. And Philip, welcome to the pod. Tell us about your dreams and your desires. What are they generally?
Dreams and desires, just to be on this podcast. That was it. And now I've made it. So I'm not really sure what to do after this.
And I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you listened to the podcast before?
I have, yes.
Man, that means we've ruined some of the surprises.
Who hasn't, though?
Looking at our numbers, some people. But the... actually, no, we are seeing a nice listenership going upwards. Well, I think this is our 8th episode so far, so I'm pretty happy with the fact that people have been listening along. So if you are one of the regular listeners, thank you very much. One of them is my dad, who gives me great feedback every week. Thank you, Dad. He's a genuine fan, and it's very lovely, so it makes me feel special.
That's awesome.
Isn't it, right? Hi, Dad. He'll love that. Matt, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. I got to fly a drone, which I know we'll touch on later, and I didn't get in trouble for it, so that's good. New York City's like a no drone zone.
So you didn't get in trouble because you didn't get caught, or because you did it in the right place?
I got permission from my building, which I don't know if that counts, but I got to do it on the private property. So it was basically a test to see how it worked and test out the controller, which I'm writing a feature on. Awesome drone, and I know we'll touch on that.
I have been trying to teach a 5-year-old the meaning of a quarter of an hour in a clock. And I have found out that there are things in life that you understand, such as, basic maths. And then when you realise you've got to try and break them down further than your basic knowledge, it's almost impossible to know how to do that. You think, well, a quarter of an hour is 3 notches on the clock. And you're like, well, how do I make this sound easier? And I can't think of a way. It is quite tricky. So if anyone listens out there struggling with the same thing, please do let us know on the methods at the end of this podcast. Right, let's get into what's happened this week. Let's go for news. Number one, I think rather inevitable rumour that the iPhone 12 is possibly delayed. We've seen this come out. Wall Street Journal broke this story. Matt Swider, your thoughts on that? It seems like an obvious thing, right?
Yeah, given the whole pandemic, if you've been keeping up, it is delaying pretty much everything. That is, to be expected. But the good news is, or at least the negative information that's in there, mentions that the actual reveal might not be delayed, which will make people happy. But it leaves you more time to save up some money for this iPhone 12. We'll see if they have a staggered launch. They had that with the iPhone 10, where the iPhone 10 came out after the iPhone 8. It was like a month later. So they could go for that approach again. Maybe the 5G version, the super, max version of the latest iPhone will come out later than the others. But it remains to be seen. And I think there are 2 reasons for it. One is supply chain. They could be delaying it because they can't come out with it as quickly as they want to. And the other reason could be people just don't want an iPhone that costs over $1,000 at a time when people are getting laid off. So I think that's one of the big reasons that Apple is going. Apple already gets a lot of grief for launching a phone at that price. So this is something that could help the economy recover before they launch a new iPhone.
Understand. And Philip, are you an iPhone or Android user?
I'm an Android user. I have not owned an iPhone.
Is that a choice that you've made consciously? Or obviously, I'm sure people don't just give you your phones, but is there a reason why you haven't gone for the iPhone, or is it just a case of circumstance?
There's no specific reason. I think it's just preference. I have no qualms with the iPhone. I'm also not heavily team Android. I know it has its own problems, but I just haven't made the switch over. I use Google services. That's probably why I've stuck with Android over the years, but I totally recognize that Apple makes some great hardware. The iPhones, especially the latest ones, can go toe to toe with any Android phone.
And so if you lost your phone now and someone said you can only buy an iPhone, would you go for the SE that you've just seen come out, or would you go a bit higher?
I think I'd probably go a bit higher. I do like the SE. I like the idea of it I know a lot of people don't need like 100 cameras on the back of their phone.
Lies. Lies.
I should have seen that coming. But no, I'd probably go a little bit higher end. I actually use a Pixel 4 XL right now. So I think the SE, in terms of features, would be a bit of a step down. But yeah, I think I'd probably save up and shell out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, moving on to another story that's come out this week. I feel like, and as we talked about, the iPhone 12 being possibly delayed, I think it's not a surprise to anybody at the point, and like Matt said, could be coming out a bit later. However, things that are slightly more surprising is the Galaxy Watch from Samsung has been, it's the Samsung Watch Galaxy Active, sorry, make sure I got the exact name because they do a lot of different ones. The Samsung Galaxy Watch Active 2, correct. It actually launched a few months ago, but had a blood pressure monitor baked into it. But it wasn't available because it wasn't authorized by the FDA version in South Korea. It's called the South Korea Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, MFDS. And they haven't approved it now. They have done, so you can use it as a blood pressure monitor. It's interesting that this whole idea of bringing out devices first, saying they can do something like Apple did with the Apple Watch and the ECG monitor, and then bring it out later once it can actually do so. I feel like that applies kind of pressure to the different regulatory bodies to say hey, this is out there, people want it, make it okay. You must guess they've tested it beforehand, and the body would say, yeah, probably. But what do you guys think? Is having something like blood pressure on your watch a good thing? Can it actually work? Sherri, do you have any care on this?
I mean, I am always I am looking for a fitness band to invest in, not necessarily a smartwatch, but I'm always about bells and whistles. The more bells and whistles that something can have, I'm all for it. So I think this is a great idea, especially for people that need to watch their blood pressure or need to watch their health a little more closely than the average person. I think it's a great idea. It's a no fuss, no muss type of way to deal with it.
But I mean, the same thing. I've known people that have had to check their blood pressure regularly and use a cuff, etc. And it's onerous. And being able to do it with a watch would obviously be really good. Even still, first of all, with this, you have to pair it with a cuff to start with. So it's not like you buy it and that's it. You have to pair it with a blood pressure monitoring cuff. It tests it. It kind of calibrates itself. And every month you have to recalibrate to make sure it's within remit, within the limits of what it's supposed to be doing. So there's that element of it, which means it's kind of does it. But second, I just don't know if I trust it, because blood pressure is something some people really need to monitor regularly. I'm sure it can do it, but I'd need a bit more time and see a few people using it effectively to believe that could actually happen. But I think it's really cool to see these wearables being able to monitor health in new and different ways. Heart rate variance, which is so dull when you try and explain it to somebody, is a really cool thing that these watches can do, and can tell you actually how tired you are, how much recovery you need, how much stress that's going on. It can really measure your nervous system. I just think it's wicked that we can do those things. I know, I feel like whipping through the news today, but I want to touch on some laptop stuff, because you guys are from Laptop Mag, and it's a Surface Book 3 that we've been seeing more and more about this. Philip, is this something that people who are interested in iPad should care about, or is it just a completely different thing and it will stay in its own little slot?
The Surface Book 3, it is a completely different thing, but it does cover a bunch of different devices. It does a lot of things. It can act as a tablet or a laptop. I really love the Surface Book line. I haven't bought one because they're extremely expensive, but I like the idea of them. The Surface Book 3 is looking like it just passed the FCC, so we're expecting it here pretty soon. It's looking like a minor refresh from the Surface Book 2, new chips, new graphics card, maybe more in line. The graphics card might be for creators rather than gamers. If you own an iPad or you want a really good Windows tablet, you're probably better off getting a Surface Pro, just because it's a lot less expensive. But if you want this all-in-one device that can act as both a tablet and a laptop, The reason the Surface Book 3 is better than the iPad at doing this or the Surface Pro is because it's a laptop. Unlike the Surface Pro, which first it's a tablet and then you turn it into a laptop, the Surface Book is a laptop first, and then you can detach the lid and it becomes a tablet. I think for that reason, the Surface Book 3 is the best all-in-one device that you can buy. The Surface Book 2 right now, Surface Book 3 is coming up.
And what's going to be cool about it, do you think?
I think, I don't, so far I haven't seen any new features that really stand out. There was a patent that showed that the keyboard could be turned around and used to write on. You could use a stylus to write on the back of the keyboard.
I was about to say, you can already write on keyboards, but I realized what you meant. Sorry, carry on.
I don't know how practical that is, because then, of course, you can't use a keyboard at the same time. It's interesting. I think the Surface Book 3 will probably be pretty similar to the 2, just more powerful. But really the benefit is that you have a full-fledged laptop, something that's kind of in line with the MacBook Pro, that you can detach the screen and have this massive tablet that has as much power, just about as much power as an iPad Pro.
I mean, actually, this is a good question for all of you. Like, patents is a general thing. They're so annoying for the tech writer and for the tech fan, I think, because there's so many that come out and so few that ever actually make it to devices themselves. I know Google had like a modular smartphone patent a few years ago that just put it apart and put things back together again, and things like I think the Samsung phone Galaxy S7 was rumored to possibly be able to smell, and it's like all these brand and last week we talked about the PS5 robot that would sit there alongside you. I think Kimberly was particularly passionate about what could a robot next to you actually achieve if you had it playing along a PS5 with you, or playing sitting next to you while you're playing. And it's like, come on, there's never going to be a robot that looks like a cloud that will play PS5 with you, but everyone talks about it like it's fact because somebody from Sony's drawn a picture and patented it just in case. But equally, they are fun to talk about. So when you say things like a keyboard that could flip over, I'm like, that'd be cool. I'd want to buy that until I found out it was $400 more and don't want it anymore. But it's a nice way to dream, I feel.
I feel like they're trying to troll us with these things, so we get excited and write a news story about it. And like, oh, there's never going to be a PS5 robot.
I mean, like, patents are a fun way to look at it's the ultimate what if. Like, okay, the company has obviously been looking at this as a means of something. It might not make it into the final design as we saw it in the patent, but elements of that patent got there, which makes it cool. But it's just very fun to like, oh wow, what if PlayStation made a robot that will be your friend while you're playing and its eyes flashed according to your emotions or whatever it was going to do.
Yeah, you can kind of think of them as concept cars. You see them on the show floor, and they can basically fly and have jetpacks mounted to them or whatever it is. They're never going to come out in that form. Concepts very, very, very rarely actually come out in the form you see them in the concept itself. But some of the features do eventually trickle down to devices.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of like fashion shows, really, isn't it? It's the what you see on a runway. People aren't going to wear that, but it's kind of this is where things are going. This is the trends we think are going to be doing. And with patents, brands will always try and patent everything just in case, and then they can rely on it later in court, and then it'd be overturned because someone throws millions of dollars, and we have to write about it and get really bored. So that's always fun for us, isn't it? Right, we've got time for one more story. Matt Swider, I'm going to let you make a choice here. Is it about the Apple Watch 6 or is it about iOS 14?
Uh-oh.
Which one do you want?
Oh, I'll go with iOS 14 because that is in my wheelhouse. And I think it's a concept that someone put out there that's not actually Apple's concept. And I was actually going to say that about the patents as well. It's always interesting when the average person sees these concepts and these patents and says, oh, I've seen what the new iPhone is going to look like or the new iOS update is going to look like. And it's just not a real thing. So they get caught up in that. So someone created a concept and it looks more like what the iPad can do currently with kind of a split view. And it seems like the iOS is catching up to what the iPad looks like in terms of software. For probably, since this is iOS 14, this is probably the 13th consecutive time that someone has predicted that widgets are coming to the home screen. That still hasn't happened. So we'll see if this is going to be the year. I think this is going to be a year where Apple hunkers down and tries to take out bugs and doesn't really introduce a lot of new features. They did that 2 years ago and made a very sound and solid iOS update. And then last year they tried to come out with new features and just a lot of new features, and they didn't pay attention to the bugs, and we got iOS 13, which is
I
buggy.
think what's interesting is this was launched on our sister site iMore. A few bits about it is a concept video, obviously, by someone called the Hacker24 on YouTube. Please do check it out if you haven't seen. It is a fun watch, but like you said, there's split screen. There is, instead of the whole home screen being taken over by a phone call, it's just a thing that drops down the bottom. Like I said, widgets on the home screen. You can watch picture-in-picture for watching video, which, as you said, you can do on the iPad. Emoji bar at the bottom. And the guys at iMore are very excited about it. And I was thinking, this is just Android. Like, they've just drawn Android again and made it with like some Apple icons and Apple fonts and stuff in there. It feels like after all this time, we're still talking about the fact that Android is the superior, in inverted commas, user experience. It's just a case of making it slick enough to use. I know, Sherri, I know you are a general Android user. Is that where you think where it should go?
I mean, without Android, they need each other. It's kind of like Batman and the Joker in a way. Like, they just complete each other. Like, we're constantly going back and forth. Like, oh, well, like anytime that there's an Apple phone, like an iPhone event, like we're like, oh, you mean that thing that Android's been doing for 2 years, and then vice versa when Samsung or somebody like, oh, you mean that thing that iPhone
Yeah.
has? Ho, 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 ho. You green bubble person. Ho, ho, ho. It's a constant battle of one-upmanship. I personally think that Apple is the ultimate Columbuser. It just comes up with things. It's like, we made this. It's like, but it's been out for 5 years. Okay. Like, oh, so Apple made the pencil. So Apple has made the pencil. Like, we didn't have that before. Okay, fine. Okay, that's fine. I guess Apple made the pencil.
But that takes courage. So
That's a niche joke if you were there for the iPhone 7 launch, if I ever heard one. Right, we have gone way over time as usual. Well done us. Let's move on to the next section. So we will come back after this break. Okay, and we're back. Right, we're supposed to normally go into the labs and reviews right now, but very quickly I'm going to just drop a whole new feature on you guys and see how it plays out. I was thinking the other day about the old, long time ago, Will It Blend features that used to come up. I miss those days when some guy would get a really powerful blender and chuck electronics in a really wasteful manner and see if they would blend up. And I'm going to ask you guys, what would be the tastiest gadget if you had to eat one and it was totally safe and it wouldn't kill you? Would you eat? If you could blend anything up, what would you eat? Sherri, I feel like you're ready straight away. You're like, I know this from day one.
All right, so any gadget.
Anything. I
would blend my V-Moda Crossfade 2 headphones with Odyssey's the 3D spatial audio headphones that they have, and cut in a little bit with a dash of Bose noise canceling. It would make tasty beats. That's what I would do.
Oh man, I thought you were going to go with some kind of like, and they've got these kind of machines made ingredients and that's why the flavor would be good, but no, you were just trying to make a good pun about tasty beats.
Tasty beat, like, listen, audio is life. And I want 3D, something that does great 3D audio, that's customizable, that has great noise canceling, and still looks stylish.
Yeah, but you're going to eat it, so who gives a shit?
I mean, I would wear it for a while before I ate it, but you know.
Okay, well, Swider, I'm blending your thing. What are you gonna put in, and would it taste good enough?
I would say any smartphone with a removable battery, because maybe I'll live if there's no battery in there. That would probably be an old phone though, because there are no phones with removable batteries anymore. I think
I would like us to go back to removable batteries.
Yeah,
I really would like that. Like it potentially extends the life of your smartphone. And if some people just don't do yearly updates, some people don't do 2 years. Like if we could, like we need to be able to like access the insides of our smartphones if we want to repair them. I'm all for right to repair.
Yeah, I think I would rather see the prices drop down on smartphone repairs or battery exchanges, but that'll never happen.
Philip, bring us back to fun times. Come on, I'm going to give you a lemon. You can chuck that in there as well, but what are you going to eat?
I would take the AirPods. I wouldn't put them in the blender. I'd just eat them like popcorn. Maybe a spritz, maybe a spritz of lemon on top sounds good.
Yeah, just get it through, get it done. We did a TechRadar video earlier this week about just iPhone SE live Q&A, and one of the things that came up was sort of phones from the past, like why is LG not as good anymore? And I forgot about the LG G4, which was made partly of leather, and that was their big selling point. About there's a phone made of leather, and I'm like, that's basically cow. So that's mostly food. So I would blend that out, and plus you've got a removable battery in that too, so I can take that out.
That's a good one. HP's got a Spectre Folio laptop that's made of leather, so even more cow. If you want the 12-ounce steak instead of the 8.
That's actually what the Impossible Burger 3 is made of.
Right, well, talking of the Pixel Buds, I think we need to go into the labs. We're not talking about Pixel Buds, I've given it away. Talking of AirPods and buds and stuff, anyway, whatever. Sherri, take us into the labs, please. Get me out of this.
All right. Come with me and you'll see a world of tech imagination. There'll be laptops, tablets too, and some AirPods.
Still not sure if we're allowed to do that. Carry on.
We're doing it till we can't.
We'll find out from our producer Karen. Number one on the list, big style this week, is the Pixel Buds 2. I think I gave it away quite comprehensively. Sherri, you've been trying these. They're good? Yes, no? Would you eat them?
They are surprisingly good, especially when considering the original Pixel Buds that came out about 2 years ago, I guess now. These are, for one, truly wireless, which is awesome. Design-wise, they do remind me of Mentos, the Fresh Maker. It's up to you whether you like the design or not, but it's very unassuming. Even they sent us the clearly white color, but I would have liked to have taken a stab at also orange. They just look interesting. They sound really good. Like, they're not as volume forward as, say, the AirPods Pro, and they definitely lack active noise canceling. Instead, they have adaptive noise canceling, which is kind of cool. Like, so basically, it's kind of like display brightness, like adaptive display brightness. So if you go from an atmosphere that's quiet to an atmosphere that's noisy, it'll adjust somewhat to make the audio a little bit better. It's nothing to write home about. The other major feature, Google has cleaned up the translate service. So now you can actually do real-time translation as long as you have Google Translate on your phone. I actually did it to translate Telemundo, and it worked pretty damn good. So I was pretty impressed with that.
And how much are they?
They are $179, which is a really, really competitive price, considering that the AirPods Pro are about $249, and the Sony Buds, which I'm very fond of, the WF-1000 XM3s. Try saying that 3 times fast. In terms of noise canceling, they're some of the best out there. Those are $229, so it's a very, very attractive price point to some very good sounding headphones with some really cool features. And it does fast pair, which is trying to go toe to toe with what the AirPods does with the near instant pairing, and it's pretty effective. So I was actually thoroughly impressed, enough to give the Buds a 4 out of 5 stars. No EC, because I do want them to have active noise canceling, and the battery life at about 5 hours could be a little better, especially since you've got Galaxy Buds out there doing 7 hours and the Sony Buds do 6. So, but not at all a bad choice of totally wireless buds.
Okay, so it sounds like they are an alternative to those, maybe like I said, people like Philip who have a Google Pixel and Android phones all over the place. They seem to make a lot of sense, right?
Absolutely. I actually tried it out with the 4XL. Like, I am actually loving the 4XL. Not enough to ditch the Note, but I am a fan of stock Android.
Every time that Google comes with an update for the live translate, I keep putting off trying to learn a new language. So one of these days I may have to get to it, but I'm like, the Spanish classes can wait because it just gets better and better. So I appreciate that.
You're like the kids of today, Matt. You don't pick up a book. I know the internet's there, but come on. You know, feeling the pages, writing things down, it's how you learn. Come on.
You just said a bunch of things I don't know about.
Yeah.
Book, pages.
Wow.
Too busy Googling.
These are things on Kindle.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'm quite excited about this. This will be one that only do we have any geeks of noise cancelling podcast out there will enjoy? It's the Galaxy Chromebook. It's been absolutely gut punched by Sherri for about 4 weeks now, and Philip has actually reviewed it. So Philip,
Did you really, Sherri?
yeah, she's been like, it looks really lovely, but it's pointless, it's stupid. So
You know how I feel about Chromebooks. You know how I feel, Phil. Like, I'm not going to step back from that. Like, the Samsung's Galaxy Book looks great. I just wish it was a Windows machine. That's it.
I know.
well,
I thought
Philip's tested it. Come on.
Yeah, I thought this would be the device that turned you around on Chromebooks. I thought this was it. It had everything, and then we get to the battery life, and it just Samsung stacked their tower.
I cackled.
I know you did. I know you
cackled.
did. So, speaking of battery life, it's under 6 hours, according to our test, which keeps the display at 150 nits, which isn't super bright. But during real world testing, I got around 3.5. So, so you got to keep. There it is. You got to keep this thing close to an outlet. It's really a shame because it's such a cliche to say, but I really wanted to love the Galaxy Chromebook. I first saw it at CES, and I was just blown away by it. Samsung did some incredible things with it. It's 0.4 inches, which is thinner than just about any laptop you'll ever see, especially 13-inch. It's got this beautiful red paint job on it. It just looks amazing. They put it on the lid, on the deck, on the keys, on the touchpad. It looks great. And then the screen is an AMOLED, a 4K AMOLED display, which admittedly is totally overkill, but it looks amazing when you see, when you watch. I was watching those 4K YouTube videos, the nature videos, and I'd watched them a million times, but I just stared at the screen and couldn't stop looking. And on top of that, it has a U-series processor. Without getting too much in the weeds, U-series processors, Intel processors, typically are for slightly thicker laptops. You don't usually find a laptop this thin that gets you this much performance. So it's got amazing performance, an incredible display. It's about as thin as any other laptop, and it looks beautiful with the red paint. But the battery life just absolutely kills it. It kills it.
How much is it?
It costs $9.99, which is the second, which is the second point that's worth making. That is, I think, the same price as the Pixelbook, which is super outdated. I wouldn't recommend the Pixelbook. With that out of the way, this is the most expensive Chrome OS laptop you can buy, which is a problem. Still, despite the battery life, I would love to see Samsung make a Windows version of this. I wouldn't mind if it were a little thicker to accommodate for a larger battery, because it does so many things so well. If there's one thing I could change about it, I would probably, I could see Sherri, she's ready. I would switch the 4K display out for a 1080, maybe keep OLED if that's the AMOLED screen if possible, just to get a couple more hours of battery life. I don't think 4K is really necessary, especially for a Chromebook. Probably not necessary for most Windows users, but if you kept everything the same, added a couple hours of battery life, made the screen 1080, this would be the laptop to beat.
Right, before Sherri comes out, Philip, I want you to... what about things like what you said, obviously watching nature documentaries and the proper 4K stuff, but what about just browsing Netflix, watching your general stuff day to day? Does it look good for that?
Oh, it looks amazing because it's really about the colors, and with AMOLED you get true blacks, really dark black levels, and the colors, this is the 6th most colorful display we've ever tested of however many laptops we've tested in the last decade plus. The colors just really stand out and pop, and it's a really bright display too. So the screen is incredible. You can imagine owning a Samsung Galaxy smartphone or a Note, and just imagine that screen blown up to 13.3 inches. It looks really incredible. But I do want to go to Sherri because she wrote a pretty scathing article about Samsung in the laptop industry a couple years ago. But does this, given all the innovation in it, Sherri, does this change your mind at all about Samsung?
Sherri, say one nice thing before you start about this laptop, this Chromebook. I want you to hear one.
The colors, man.
Okay.
The colors.
Okay, go.
I mean, listen. I thought that thing was the sexiest thing moving at CES, and I was
at
ready
CES.
to
Thank you.
I mean, I didn't know you like that thing, Gareth. Like, we were just like two ships passing in the night. Like, I'd stare longingly and you wouldn't notice my presence. Like, But that's neither here nor there. We can talk about our secret love later. I really wanted to be on this bandwagon because back in the day, Samsung used to make amazing looking laptops. Like they would do glass, they would do aluminum, they'd be super thin, and then they just stopped caring along the line. The smartphone line started taking off, and so did the TV line, which understandable. Like even their washing machine line, like Samsung just has their hands in everything. And so the laptop part of it kind of just fell off, and I just got tired of it. And I wrote this letter to Samsung. I'm like, dear Samsung, why don't you want to win? Because I was rooting, like, I am Tyra in this situation. I'm rooting for you. I'm always rooting for, like, I own nothing but Samsung phones. I want Samsung to win, but they are just not winning on the laptop front. But I would let this stay a Chromebook. Just for an experiment, I would like to see this with a Qualcomm processor just to see if it would boost the battery life up. Keep the 4K. I just want to Frankenstein this together and just see how it will work. But honestly, with that chassis, it deserves to be a Windows laptop. I need this in my life, just not the Chromebook for it.
Right, but I'm aware that we could literally talk for possibly another hour about things that are wrong with Chromebooks, but I really want to find out, just before Swider possibly gets taken off to jail for what he's been doing on his roof.
Oh my God!
I want to hear what's going on with
different reasons.
Yeah, true. Yeah, what he does in his own time. But you have the DJI Mavic Air 2. You've been testing it out. I don't think many people, maybe not a lot of people, have a drone. But I think the idea of drones is always going to be cool for a lot of people. I mean, is this the one that everyone would have? I mean, showing us on camera is fine, Swider, but it's not an audio feature, is it? It's basically like a helicopter with 4 wings.
I'm actually flying it around right now. You can't see it, but
imagine if that's how you did it. You hold it with your hand and just hold it around and just move it.
Yeah, it has a crank on it, so you just crank it up and old school, turn of the century. No, it's the drone to get. So we have our review on TechRadar right now, and it is the best drone for most people who want something that's a little bit better than the last drone they came out with, which was the DJI Mavic Mini. That's a great drone, but this one has more sensors on there. It does 4K, 60 frames per second, which just is buttery smooth, and the stabilization is really great because I flew it yesterday. The laws in New York City are very vague, and I watched a couple of videos about how it's mostly legal or illegal to fly in New York City, but I had permission from my building to fly it on the private property, so I was able to do that. And it was just, I wasn't scared that it would go off course, and that's just a really great thing, especially in New York where there's a lot of interference. It wasn't an issue. It went straight up. I got, panned around a little bit. I got all the views I wanted. I'm really in love with the controller. They redesigned the controller. The battery life is something like 34 minutes. So
that's dope.
It's ridiculous. 34-minute flight time. And we've tested that out. That works. That may not seem like a lot, but when they usually last 24 minutes, and by 24 minutes, I mean 21 minutes, because by the time you update all the firmware updates and everything, you're like, oh, I haven't gotten off the ground yet, and I've already used up half my battery life. So hats off to DJI. They're the only ones in the game who make good drones these days. There's maybe one other manufacturer that's trying to come onto the scene, Skydio, but they're ruling the drone market, and for good reason. They make really great products. They try to, I feel like they've never said this, but they try to mimic Apple. They call their product the Pro, the Air, and they come out with really exciting launch events. Sadly, they couldn't have a launch event for this because everybody's shut indoors, but hopefully when all is good, we will be able to take this out a little bit further and get some great skyline views in New York City.
I mean, come on, of all the brands that could do a launch with people locked in, it's a drone manufacturer, surely. Like, right, just fly it past their window and say, have a look outside at your allotted time, and you'll have a proper good demonstration, right?
That would be an awesome reveal event.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People think they're going to die and it's apocalypse, but no, it's just a launch.
Yeah, they could have, really rode the coattails of the Blue Angels, which flew over New York City. That's a group of, it's the military that does the flybys with jet airplanes. And just ride along with them. That would be a great launch event.
How's the video on the drone?
From what I've tested, it's smooth. Like our review right now backs that up. The one thing that I really like is the bit rate. So the bit rate is 120 megabits per second, which is just blows everything else out of the water. It usually is about 100, and that's on the high end.
Wow.
The mini can't even do 100. So the fact that this is going over 100 is just amazing. DJI makes just every time they come out with a product, I just want to test it out and snap it up. This is the first one that actually goes past 4K 360 frames per second. It's 60 frames per second. So that's just a selling point for a lot of people. And yeah, the 120 megabits per second on the bit rate is huge. That's something I've noticed on even the little pocket camera that I have. The DJI Osmo Pocket is amazing.
I love their gimbals. Oh my God.
They're so good at what they do. That is better than my smartphone camera. And it's because of the bit rate, the higher bit rate that I'm hoping phone manufacturers catch up with.
I mean, just for our listeners out there, if you are thinking of updating your Tinder bio, why not drop in things like, I'm really into bitrate and I love gimbals. See how that goes for you. Out of context, I think people love it. I think we need to take another quick break, so we are going way over time. And we're back. And here we go. One of the best bits of the day. It's Sherri singing us into...
Unpopular opinions, let your hate unfurl. What's pissing you off this week? Share with us, boys and girls. And maybe intersex people, I don't know, whatever your gender is, however you identify. Unpopular opinions.
Go on, Philip, take the song.
I'm good. That was great. Actually, that was really soothing.
No one's taking the challenge yet, Phil. Don't do that.
Chris did that one time, our guest from TechSpert.
Oh yes, he gave us this really cool metal version of it. It was
He's
awesome.
a better man than I am.
No, you're a wonderful man, Philip. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Thank you.
There you are. Anyway, but you have an unpopular opinion. I feel like I can see it coming out of your eyeballs right now.
I was angry until that soothing lullaby right there. But yeah, I guess I can talk. I'll talk about it anyway. It seems petty, but we review many laptops, and so even the smallest little complaint can be a big one. For me, a trend that's coming up in laptops is vendors are putting the power button directly next to the delete key on Windows 10 laptops. Hear me out.
That's where mine is.
This is a problem. Is it?
Yeah.
So a lot of Mac users I've spoken to, and some Windows users Mac users don't really know what I'm talking about. Windows users don't use the delete key, don't know it's there. I use it all the time to delete words from front to back or to get rid of unneeded spaces between paragraphs. I was reviewing an Asus TravelMate laptop, and it had the power key directly next to the delete key. And I instinctively, when I try to delete...
Acer?
Asus. Well, so Acer has one too, the Acer Swift 5. So Asus and Acer are doing it.
Okay.
The Asus is the ExpertBook B9450.
Okay.
And otherwise, wonderful laptop. But in this case, when I was using it, my fingers would instinctively reach for the upper rightmost key on the keyboard. Usually that's the delete key. In this case, it was the power button. You probably see where this is going. I tried to delete a letter, a paragraph, or a space, and instead the screen went blank. This happened no fewer than 4 times while I was using the laptop, while I was reviewing it. I was in a coffee shop, in a good mood, had a cappuccino in front of me, everything was going fine. Wanted to delete a letter while editing an article. Bam, the screen goes dark, laptop powers down. I have to power back up. Sometimes I lose my progress. It seems like a small little thing, but it really, for me and for other people, it is a problem. In fact, when I published that review, a rep at Asus emailed me and said, "Hey, thanks for the review. Funny you mentioned the delete key. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally turned off my laptop." So
were they just saying like, haha, lol?
yeah, exactly. It was. I was like, so we're not doing that again, right? And so I've seen it in that Asus, the Acer, HP has some laptops that are going to incorporate the power button into the keyboard. Dell, the leaks for the XPS 15 and XPS 17, a topic on its own. Those leaks show pictures of the keyboard with the power button next to the delete key. For me, it's a huge problem. Maybe not for everybody, but if you use that delete key in the top right corner of your keyboard, something to look out for. You might want to avoid a laptop with the power button there.
I'll tell you guys something behind the curtain of TechRadar. a CMS, a content management system, which is how any website has to enter the stuff that you see on your screens. We used to have an old one that was custom built. And for some reason, right next to save and exit, there was a button that was called exit without saving, where you would do everything. You would hit...
Oh, that's a setup.
Yeah, I know, right? And it was like a few pixels to the right. You would click exit without saving. No, like, are you sure?
Wow.
Just like, okay, bye. And you would lose all your work. Oh, my God. Like,
Oh, no.
it was so upsetting. I mean, we don't have that CMS anymore. Life is much better. But my God, the amount of times where I've just like literally screamed in front of other people because you spend an hour doing something, which I know is your fault. You're supposed to save, but sometimes you forget and you hit exit without saving and your world's gone to pieces. And it's just awful.
Oh,
That is bad. I'm curious, does anybody use the delete key I'm talking about? And would that be a problem for anybody?
I don't use it as much as you do in the sense of that. I use backspace more, which is far away. But the delete key, yeah, I do. And it's, like you said, the one I've got on my laptop is a sort of a recess button to the right of the delete key. It's not an actual key.
Yep.
But if it was an actual one on there, absolutely. I think that'd be incredibly annoying.
Yeah, this was a key, same size, same shape, same feedback as the delete key. So no way of distinguishing. I'm not somebody who, I don't have to look at the keyboard to type, so I do it by...
All right, show off. Flex.
Yeah,
Touch type is for the win.
what can I say?
You feel strongly about that delete key the way I feel about the right shift key. I cannot stand when companies make short shift keys, especially the right one. And apparently this is not a thing for a lot of people. Some people are just using the left shift key like animals.
I am one of those animals. I've never used the right shift key.
How?
I've never used who uses the right shift key, Sherri? Unless you're left-handed, which in case fair enough, but otherwise we don't need the control key, we don't need the alt. What does alt GR stand for?
No, like I use all of my key, like I don't know what to do with you folks. I don't understand how you're typing like that.
So I mean, I've just wondered what alt GR means. It means alt graph. I don't know what that means at all, but that's what the difference between alt and alt GR on the keyboard is. There you are, alternative graphic. I don't know. Let's move on. We are running so far over time. We have to leave this here now. But Philip, it's been lovely having you on the podcast, and Matthew Swider, you too. Thank you both for joining us for the first time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Which one of you has had the most fun? I'll let you battle it out.
I think I'll take... Can you give me that one?
This time,
I think I've had a lot
But next
of fun.
time, I'm going to claim it. Who knows?
Next time it's yours.
Yeah.
I ate AirPods on this podcast, so...
Yeah, true. I mean, Swider even came with his favourite stuff about megabits, so you feel like you had the extra chance there. But it's been wonderful having you both on.
That's going in the Tinder profile.
You don't need it, Swider. You've got lovely people all around you. All it leaves me to say is for you guys to say goodbye. So if you want to say goodbye first and let us know where you can get hold of you, Philip, please do so.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast. Thanks for listening. You can read my stuff at laptopmag.com.
Any socials?
Yes, all the socials on Twitter, at Philip_Tracy. Maybe don't Facebook me.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah. It's secret time. Matt, I know that you have socials.
I do. You can find me on TechRadar.com and at Matt Swider on most of the social network platforms. You could find me in jail if I get caught with this drone in cell block C. So please write to me. And on SwiderSelfie.com apparently, because someone created that. So that's a thing. I don't endorse any of that, but
On the next podcast.
Like I said, we are so over time, but apparently someone, we don't know who, has created a website called swiderselfies.com where you can go and rate pictures of Matt Swider. Feel free to check it out. We don't know who's done it. He maintains it wasn't him, even though it would probably be nicer if that was true. But yeah, that exists. Sherri, how about you? I feel like you definitely have socials. You seem to mention them once in a while.
Of course. You can find me on Laptop Mag, the best site, hands down. Gareth is going to say that TechRadar is, and I vehemently agree. I still love him. You can find me on all the socials under Miss Smith 11. That's MISS Smith 11. And yeah, read more Laptop Mag. Laptop now, laptop then, laptop forever.
Laptop forever.
I mean, like, I was going to say, yeah, of course, TechRadar's better, but I haven't thought of a suitable tagline for it. You know, it doesn't, now I feel like we can't possibly compete. Yeah, well, I've been Gareth Beavis. Isn't my name on any of the socials. It's Super B for Twitter. Please find me there. Come to TechRadar for all your news, features, reviews, wonderful videos, and more. And thank you very much, guys. And we will see you next week on the new noise cancelling podcast. Not a thing. The new noise cancelling podcast, which, as I should always say, is a member of the Audio Booms original Original Network. There are plenty of lovely podcasts to listen to there, so please do so. Like us and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. There are lots of ways to do so. Give us 5 stars if you think we're good enough. Give us 4 stars if not that good. You know, don't feel pressured into doing 5 stars, but it does hurt us. Thank you very much, and see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.